in the upper portion of the range. So these are the specifics behind your project. So I'll start with the market colleges, and also there are a couple of the local ISDs sprinkled in as well. So when I talk about the market tonight, this is the group that we're talking about. One thing to point out in this list, Del Mar College did not participate in our survey this year, but we were able to collect their faculty schedules from them, so we could use that information as a part of the study. I mentioned earlier that we use some other market sources, that we do compare your jobs outside of education in some cases, and those sources are listed here. They are Comp Analyst and Pay Factors by Pay Scale. These are third-party salary surveys that we pay to access on behalf of our clients. So that's how we get that industry data for jobs that compete outside of just in education. So this is a graphical representation of how your master's degree faculty compares to the market. Now this is how your hiring schedule, or that structure that you have, compares to the market. So the market median at each of the surveyed years is the blue line, and your faculty hiring schedule is the orange line. So what you can see here is you are right there even with the market for starting pay for master's faculty, but then we kind of dip and we're below market at year 5, 10, 15, and 20, which are the years that we survey for. And these are the numbers behind that chart, or that graph. So the first line is your faculty schedule at each of the benchmark years, and then we're sharing the local market median, your percent of market, and then the dollar amount difference from market. Now what's interesting here is your average salary for your master's degree 9-month faculty is actually 8% above market. So while your hiring structure lags behind, many of your faculty are paid above that. And so as a result, your pay is strong while your structure is lagging behind. That's an easy problem to fix, and we're going to talk about that in a few slides. Also, of course, you have many faculty with various degree levels, and so this is kind of an overview of how your other faculty, beyond just the master's degree faculty, compare to the market. Big picture, again, when we look at the percentages at the start of your hiring schedule, you're pretty competitive, even strong in some cases. But as we go up to the more experienced faculty, that hiring schedule dips a little lower. We also reviewed how your part-time or adjunct faculty pay compares to the market, and you pay $850 for all of your associate degree and lower programs, and I think slightly higher than that for the bachelor's degree adjunct faculty. And so the market for these really sits right around $1,000 per credit hour. So we are behind just a hair in adjunct pay. And of course, we looked at your other pay groups. Administration, which is your leadership type positions. Professional is all of your exempt jobs that are typically more individual contributor positions. Office and technical, of course, is technicians, clerical staff, those types of jobs. And then maintenance operations is, of course, maintenance, custodial, those types. So again, when we look at that first column, this is how your employee pay compares to market for each of these pay groups. So we're lower in the non-exempt or the classified staff with office and technical and maintenance and operations. But the second column is how your structures compare to the market. So we look at how your midpoints align with the market values, and those are pretty nicely aligned. So this is kind of the opposite from what we saw with the faculty. We also look at minimum rates of pay for your non-exempt staff, and those are nicely competitive. So we'll dive into the recommendations. So as always, we have recommended adjustments to your current structures to help align with market and to make improvements. The market is, of course, a moving target, so we want to adjust those structures each year. We have given you improved starting salaries. Currently, your lowest rate of pay in the non-exempt plan starts at $12.50, and we proposed a $13 an hour starting rate of pay. And then, of course, we realigned your midpoints with the market and recommended just a handful of positions that were a little bit below market. We've recommended some upgrades for those positions. Sometimes you can address market differences just by shifting the range a little bit, but if it's too great of a difference, then we'll recommend to upgrade a position. And recommendation 2 is to adopt a general pay increase to continue to improve upon your market position. We've got 2 models for you to choose from, a 3% raise for all job groups and a 4% raise for all job groups. For faculty, that general pay increase is calculated as a percentage of the market median master's salary, and then, of course, indexed for other degree levels. For your other pay groups, we've calculated that general pay increase as a percentage of each employee's pay grade midpoint. Recommendation 3 is to provide adjustments to address market differences and maintain equity. This is where we're able to be a little bit strategic, spend a little bit of money to, fix some jobs that are below market. So the first one is adjustments to the faculty hiring schedule. Now you'll remember that you were pretty close to market at starting pay and then dipped below. What we've recommended is, in addition to the pay increase, we've added adjustments really at all your years, 1 through 25. What those do is they create for your hiring schedule larger differences in pay between years of experience. And then also they drive your pay for those years up much closer to the market rate. This is kind of a one-time thing. I think if you adopt these adjustments this year, we're going to look a lot better next year, and we'll talk about the cost impact to that in a bit. For your staff that are non-faculty staff, there are just a handful that need, after the general pay increase, need an increase to 1% above their pay range minimum. That's an adjustment you'll remember we always do because we don't want anyone to be paid below their pay grade minimum when we raise a structure. Strategic adjustments are applied to your professional staff, to your exempt staff. What these do is, after a pay increase and all other adjustments, if an individual's pay is less than 90% of their midpoint, we just apply an additional 1% of midpoint to that person's pay. Again, it's spending a little bit of money, driving pay where you're lowest up towards the market rate. Placement scale adjustments are applied for your non-exempt staff. What these do is we use their experience data that your HR team sent to us, and we take the minimum to the midpoint, divide that by 20 years, and then use their experience. And it's more of a check. Not everyone needs an adjustment, but based on their experience, we'll place them if they need it. The last one is an upgrade adjustment. That is, we do call this a cost estimate. For the handful of jobs that we've recommended to upgrade, we would want you to follow your normal promotion procedures if you're upgrading those jobs. And so we've provided a cost estimate for that. And then recommendation 4 is to consider increasing your adjunct overload and lecture pay to align with the market. You'll remember this was a little bit low. The market sat at around $1,000. So we're recommending to increase that to $1,000 for your certification and associate degree programs, and then $1,100 for your bachelor's programs. I do want to add, this is not included in the cost model. We don't have data on your adjunct pay. So just keep that in mind. And last are the cost models. So we've divided this out by pay group and shown you what the general pay increase costs for each pay group, starting with the 3% model. And then you can see those adjustments that we just talked about. So for those faculty adjustments applied to years 1 through 25 to bring your schedule up to the market, the cost for that is roughly $88,000. When we apply that to your current staff, we want to make sure your current faculty are paid at that level, but if they're already above it, then there's no adjustment needed. And then, so the total estimated cost increase for Model 1, the 3% model, is roughly $1.3 million. It's a 3.7% budget impact. And then Model 2 reads much the same. The adjustments are identical or very close to identical for the faculty because we did really the exact same thing. The Model 2 is a 4% pay increase for all of your staff, and it costs roughly 1.64. It's a 4.7% budget impact. And I'm happy to take any of your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kalecki. Is there any questions from any board members? Chair recognizes Ms. Newsom.
Let me go back to that slide. Oops.
Okay, I'm looking for that one in particular. It is called here, number of benchmarks, other pay groups, market salaries. It's the last column. I just wanted to know what number of benchmarks meant.
Sure. That's a great question. So when we do a pay study, an important part is aligning your jobs with market benchmarks. And so that shows you the number of benchmarks that we were able to match by pay group. Now, keep in mind, that's not 19 people in administration. It's not 27 people. It's 27 jobs. So it does typically represent, it's between 60 and 70% of your staff that we're able to align with benchmarks, which is a good number.
Okay.
Question.
And may I have one
Go
more
ahead.
question? On the recommendation 3, on the first bullet where it says adjustments to faculty hiring schedule, can you elaborate just a tad bit what you mean there?
Sure. And I'm actually going to go back to one of the graphs that'll better illustrate it. So when we give a pay increase to faculty, it does, we do build that into next year's faculty schedule. So what you'll see when we look at the slide with the faculty master's degree market graph, that orange line is your pay. Giving a pay increase is going to shift that towards the market line, but it doesn't get us as close as you might want to be. And so the adjustments are designed to shift it much closer to that market line. So the idea is, yeah, it does. And I apologize, I may not be explaining it correctly. It is added to the schedule, but then it's also, those adjustments are added to faculty pay if after the general pay increase, they are not at the appropriate point on the schedule for their years of experience. Does that make sense? Yes, okay, help me, Veronica.
When you refer to schedules, we're not talking about what they teach, right? No. So the schedules, we have what's called degree levels, right? So we'll have the associate degree level, the bachelor's degree level, and the master's and the doctorate degree level. So what she's presenting is everything falls or depends on the master's degree because that's our biggest group. and that is what they focus on to compare to market, and that impacts. If they're low, the other ones are going to be low, so they're going to be moved up a little as per the recommendation, and so the other ones are going to go up as well. But it's about the degree levels.
I apologize. I'm gonna start saying just pay structures. We'll call it a pay structure. Thank you.
Any other questions from any board members? Chair recognizes Ms. Jackie Ramos. Sorry.
So the clarification that I wanted to make was this schedule is for entry level, for people that are coming in with different years of experience. We use that schedule, that pay scale schedule, to see where they fall under and what they're going to be earning. So what we're trying to do is try to come up as close as possible to what the market is paying for, so that we can recruit more individuals at maybe a higher salary. So, and at the same time, what happens is that those that are already working will get a great an increase, because we are proposing either one of the two models that you have brought to us. And so I realize sometimes I personally would get confused at the very beginning, because I would try to figure out, like, based on the schedule, based on the years of experience. And we also have to take into consideration, you've talked about the stipends, not the stipends, but you've talked about the overload and the adjunct schedule. And so we also have to take into consideration the stipends that exist within the organization, that an individual teacher earns above what they're earning of their salary based on what the schedule says. So wanted to make a clarification on that. I realize that we're at $850 right now per semester credit hour. So if the proposal is from you, I'm assuming, to try to meet as much as we can to the 1,031, 10, 80, 1081, 1212, somewhere meeting in the middle, correct? So for the adjunct faculty.
So, and I do want to say this was a recommendation made in collaboration with your administration.
Correct.
We don't make recommendations kind of in a vacuum. But yes, if you align your adjunct pay at $1,000, I would call that at market. I mean, if it's $10 off or $31 off, that's at market. So we give you a nice even number that is, pretty to say.
And it's to remain competitive.
Correct.
At the end of the day, you want to remain competitive. You want to make sure that you are recruiting individuals to come and teach here, but also to keep them, right? And if they don't work full time, they are going to work adjunct faculty, or they'll have enough basis to be able to come and work here. So that's one of the clarifications that I wanted to make. I appreciate your
Excellent. You explained that very well.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. I just want to recognize that Ms. Karina Elizondo is present. Thank you. Is there any other questions from any board members? No. Just for the record, every position was looked at, correct?
Correct.
It's
And
a study of
all
everyone.
positions are, receiving a pay increase depending on the model that you adopt. If you adopt a pay increase, yes, all positions are included.
Okay. And I guess this one's for Mr. Vela. If we go with the 3 or the 4, Mr. Vela, we are financially okay with that?
Yes, Cesar Vela, VP of Finance and Administration, for the record, Mr. Angel. So on the preliminary budget that you'll see, we have incorporated the 4% increase recommendation, as well as an increase to the adjunct and overload pay.
The recommendations that were in
Yes,
this slide.
and so right now, based on the projected revenues and the expenditures, we are okay with the 4% increase.
Okay. All right. Well, I just want to go and I just want to advise my colleagues that this types of recommendations are, and I think I said this last year, but they're very important. And for the reason, if we fall back 2 or 3 or 4 years that we do not give a raise, then we're going to see ourselves in a bigger bind that it could be into the 4, the 5, or the $6 million. And I don't think our budget could be able to sustain that big of a gap. So I think it's very important that we support this types of recommendations, because then we're going to be putting ourselves in a very bad position, in a very financial bad position. So is there any other questions for anybody else? No? Thank you so much, ma'am. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, there's no action needed on that one. We're moving to item 4B, presentation of preliminary draft of the fiscal year 27 budget. Mr. Vela, go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Cesar Vela, Vice President of Finance and Administration for the record. In your
Mr. Vela,
package,
sorry. Again, please, colleagues, if we could just go ahead and allow Mr. Vela give the presentation, and then other questions at the very end, please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sorry, Mr. Vela, go ahead.
thank you. In your package, you got a copy of the presentation for today. And we'll start quickly just going over some of the items that we'll cover this afternoon. First, when we began working on the budget, we identified a series of objectives that we want to accomplish with the passing or the implementation of this budget for next year. Included also, we're going to go over some of the budget highlights. What are some of the things that are included in this next year's budget request? We'll look at the projected revenue, the revenue sources, the initial budget request as they came in from the different departments throughout the college. And then we're going to give you what we as a team have been doing to balance the budget. So we'll take a look at the revised budget requests. We'll also look at the budget allocation per category. And then there are some additional considerations that we need to take into account as we work at completing the budget process so that the board can have an opportunity to vote on it at the end of August. We're also going to go over the tax rate and valuation information, and this is preliminary information that has been received from the Webb County Appraisal District. We'll look at the tax rate history for the last 6 fiscal years. And the last item that we'll take a look at is the timeline of the series of events that will need to transpire so that we can present in a balanced budget for approval at the end of August. So as I mentioned, there's 5 objectives that we want to meet as part of our the budget process for this coming fiscal year. The first one is providing funding that supports student success and enrollment growth. We are making sure that the proposed budget allocates resources to initiatives that will increase enrollment, retention, completion, and transfer outcomes. And again, this is important because state funding is tied to these metrics. So we want to make sure that we allocate the necessary resources to these initiatives. So included in that one objective is obviously including financial assistance for our students. And this is what we call the Palomino Pledge. So you'll see there an allocation for the Palomino Pledge, as well as an allocation for the meal plan. Or the second objective is, as you saw earlier with the TASB presentation, is to make sure that we invest in employee recruitment, retention, and development. Again, our goal is to provide competitive compensation and provide professional development opportunities for our faculty and staff. So we want to make sure that we support initiatives that attract and develop and retain high-quality faculty and staff. So again, part of our budget includes funding for these initiatives. Objective number 3 is to modernize technology and digital infrastructure. Again, we are making allocations to the budget that support technology improvement that enhance not only the operations of the institution, but also improve our cybersecurity, instructional delivery, and data management. Um, so again, you'll see some of those requests coming in the equipment line item that are for technology and the digital infrastructure. Item number 4 is to preserve and enhance college facilities. As we saw this year, we completed our facilities master plan, and in that plan, we identified items that need to be addressed both on the facility side but also on the infrastructure side. So this proposed budget includes an allocation for deferred maintenance, infrastructure renewal, safety improvements, and energy efficiency projects. Again, we want to make sure that we start addressing some of the items that were identified in the facilities master plan, and we feel that by providing an allocation in the operating budget for next year will help us minimize that impact of having to go out for a major bond in the future. And the last item is to maintain long-term financial stability. Again, the goal is to develop a balanced budget that preserves adequate reserves. Again, currently right now in this year's budget, we have what we call the general operating fund balance, or our reserves stand at 38 million, which represents about 41% of our current operating budget. We do have a resolution that was passed by the board to maintain at least at 20%. So we're way above that right now at this point. And again, that is our goal with every working budget, is to make sure that we present a balanced budget for approval that maintains that adequate reserves, but also maximizes the state and local funding opportunities and supports the strategic investments that will ensure that the college's long-term financial sustainability while minimizing the impact on our students. So again, all of these items are the goal or the objectives of this budget that will be presented for the fiscal year 2027. So the next item is basically the highlights. What are the items that are included in the proposed budget? On the revenue side, again, for the third year now, we're proposing not to increase taxes. We're proposing to adopt the new revenue tax rate. Essentially, what that rate does is it will give you the same amount of tax revenue that we're currently receiving this fiscal year for next fiscal year. So again, this would be the third year in a row that Laredo College would be proposing and hopefully passing that no new revenue tax rate. What does that mean? Well, it means that we've had an increase in property valuations for this coming year. We are projected to receive an additional 1.2 billion. Well, not receive. Valuations have increased by 1.2 billion of just new properties that are on the college's tax rolls. That translates to almost $2 million of additional revenue for the institution. So again, that is one of the reasons why we're able to maintain our tax rate low, but also we are going to see an increase, or we're seeing an increase in state funding. We were one of the few colleges this fiscal year that are actually seeing an increase in funding. So we're going to be approximately 3.8% increase in state funding. So again, by adopting the no new revenue tax rate, we will see a 2-cent property tax rate decrease. Again, we are still maintaining the tax collection rate at 97%. We're being conservative. I know that in the last couple of years, we've been at 98%. We want to maintain what we say 97 just to be on the safe side. We're not proposing any tuition and fee increases, and this will be the 12th year that we don't have a tuition and fee increase. The last increase that we saw was back in the spring of 2014. So it's 12 years now, and we have not proposed or increased tuition and fees. So again, maintaining the same rates for this coming fiscal year. On the expenditure side, as you saw earlier on the pay plan presentation, the current proposal includes a 4% general pay increase for all eligible employees. It also includes a $150 increase per semester hour equivalent for adjunct and overload pay. So we're going from $850 to $1,000 as being the proposal. We're also including the $2 million set aside for the Palomino pledge. And let me see if I can click on. Had some information regarding, oh, there, yeah, that one. Can you click? Oops. That one. So on the Palomino pledge, we're setting aside $2 million for the Palomino pledge. And these are the numbers that we have for this current fiscal year. For fall 2025, we had a total of 124 students take advantage of the pledge. The total cost for the fall semester was $183,798. For the spring semester, we had 152 students for a cost of $249,194. And for the summer, we had 27 students participate in the Palomino pledge for a total of 55,607. So for this current fiscal year, we've had 303 students at a cost of 488,599. So again, we are proposing to continue with the program, the plan. And so the budget has an allocation to continue the Palomino pledge. I do want to point out that this covers what we call last dollar. So students have to apply for financial aid, and then if they receive financial aid and they still have a balance, then at that point, if they don't have any other aid like scholarships, the Palomino pledge kicks in. But one of the requirements is again for them to have an application, apply for financial aid and go through the process. And if they're not covered through any of those, either through financial aid or any scholarships, then the Palomino pledge kicks in. So again, for this current fiscal year, we had 303 students qualify and participate at a cost of $488,000. So again, the current plan right now, or the proposed budget, will include an allocation of $2 million to continue the Palomino pledge. And then the other item that's included in the budget is the $1 million set aside for the student meal plan. And for that, we also have some data. So for the fall 2025 semester, we had 2,968 students qualify for the plan. For the spring, we had 2,669 students. And so for the total for the fiscal year was 5,637 students. Right now, and please keep in mind that the cost that you're seeing here is the cost. They all received $200 for the meal plan at a total cost to the institution for $937,210. Now, not all that money is used. So we found out that about 75% of the students take advantage of the meal plan. We have 25% that don't use the funds. And these are actually funds that you use it or you lose it. So if there's any remaining balances on the students' accounts, those go back into the fund to continue the plan for the following year. One item that's not, again, we're including a $1 million allocation in the budget for the meal plan, but one item that's not included is through the efforts of the development office. They did secure, I believe, funding for the Palomino plan. So again, we're allocating $2 million, but we also have some private money that was donated for that purpose. So again, aside on top of the $2 million, there's another, I believe it was $250,000 for that plan. Yes. I do apologize. I'm not used to the clicker. Okay, so the The proposed budget also includes a 1,046,000 set aside to address deferred maintenance projects. And again, this is to address one of the objectives that we mentioned. We do want to make sure that we continue this effort of working on our facilities. This past year, we've redone some of the roofs throughout the main campus, and we worked on projects such as the replacement of some chillers and cooling towers here at both at the Fort McIntosh and at the South Campus. So again, these items were all part of the items that were identified in the facilities master plan. So we want to make sure that we start working on some of these items through the general operating budget. We're also including a $300,000 allocation, and this is to improve signage at the South Campus. Part of what was identified in the facilities master plan was the signage issues that we have at the South Campus. So we'll be working on a project to improve the signage at the South Campus. And so we are including this allocation as part of the general operating budget. We're also including $75,000 for employee degree advancement scholarship fund for 2026, and that's when we first started the program. We had 9 employees participate, and the total cost was $16,660. Again, we just started that program this spring semester. It is basically a scholarship that it gets awarded to the employee for completing courses, and again, it's on a reimbursement basis. There are certain requirements that need to be met, and there is all those are documented and maintained at the HR office. And then we also have an allocation for the Laredo College 80th anniversary of $100,000. This is more, again, for outreach and marketing of not just the institution, but our programs, and to highlight the 80th anniversary of the college. So as we look at the projected revenue for next fiscal year, as I mentioned, we're one of the few colleges that are actually seeing an increase in state appropriations for next fiscal year, 3.80%, 899,000. So from 23.6 million to 24.5 million. Again, this is preliminary. We won't receive the final numbers towards the end of July. Tuition and fees, we do have an increase of 652,000, and this is again based on enrollment numbers that we had this current fiscal year. We are projecting to again have an increase of 3 to 4% for next fiscal year. So we are making a slight adjustment to the revenue under tuition and fees. Again, no increase to the fee or to the tuition rates. It's just primarily on the semester credit hour generation. So we are projecting that for a 3% increase. The transfers, no change to that. And this line item is the 6.9 or almost the 7 million represents the transfer that is made out of the tuition and fees to pay for the revenue bond. So this covers not just the revenue bond, but also funding for physical plant for the repairs and alterations and deferred maintenance of facilities. So the total transfer out for the next fiscal year will total 6.9 million, which is what we allocated this fiscal year. So no change on that one line item. Fast funding, this is the dual credit program. We are projecting a $1.2 million increase, and this is based on the growth of the dual program. The semester credit hours that is being generated by this program has increased, and so has the reimbursement rate. So we're currently, for next fiscal year, we're going to be reimbursed at $60 per semester credit hour. So we are going to see an increase of about 11.6%. Property taxes, again, no increase to the tax rate. The $2.2 million increase that we're seeing is mostly made up of the new valuations. Like I said, we saw about $1.2 billion in new new property valuation, which totaled about 1.8, 1.9 millions in additional revenue. Um, other revenue is basically just an adjustment to our investment income. This is again, as we take the opportunity to maximize on some of the investments. We are projecting that we'll see a slight increase for about 287,000. So overall, again, the current revenues for this fiscal year are at 86.5 million. We are projecting that for next year we will have revenues of 91.8 million, an increase of 5.2 million or 6.11%. And the development of the budget is going to be centered on the 91.8 million. When we look at the sources of revenues, you can see that 54.27% of our revenue is coming from property taxes. State funds, 26.74%. Tuition and fees make 18.56%, and other funds less than 1%. And again, we've seen state funding go up. Just about 3-4 years ago, our budget, the revenue in our budget from the state was about 18%, 19%. So we've gone up to 26% of our budget now in state funding. Now, there are changes that are happening at the state level with funding for community colleges. But we anticipate that this number is not going to continue to grow. It'll probably stabilize, and then we're probably, as our budget increases, we're probably going to see a decrease again on that portion of our revenue, which is the state funding. Initial budget requests, and these are all the requests that came in from the departments. And we opened up the budget process right after spring break. All of the departments had an opportunity to submit their requests. And so you can see there that we received a total of $99 million in requests. So that's an increase of 12.4 million from the current budget. Included in the $12.4 million increase is the salary line item, which makes up 2.7 million. That includes the 4% and the adjustments to the overload and adjunct pay. We also included an increase in the benefits, and this is to adjust for increases in the health insurance premiums, and also to make sure that there is enough funding for the retirement that the college is responsible, retirement contributions that the college is responsible for. Equipment, we saw an increase in requests of 4.1 million, and these are all the equipment requests that came in from the different units in the institution. So we have the majority of the equipment requests came in for instructional purposes, and we do have some for operations. So information technology, which includes from security cameras, computers, network switches, and on the instructional side, all the lab equipment that is needed for some of our workforce programs. Supplies, again, an increase of $2 million from the current fiscal year to the 2027 year. Student expenses, an increase of 306,000. And like I mentioned, under student expenses, we're including the 2 million for the Palomino pledge, the 1 million for the Palomino meal plan, and the 75,000 for the employee degree advancement. Under allowances, we're including 75,000 for contingencies, 300,000 for the uncollectible accounts, and these are all the accounts receivable accounts that we are unable to collect, and it also includes 50,000 for the employee events. Under professional development, there is a slight increase of 376,000, and contracted services, an increase of 1.5 million. Under contracted services, you'll see the line items for the South Campus signage and the 80th anniversary. So included in the 1.5 is the 300,000 and for the signage, and the 100,000 for the 80th anniversary. As I mentioned, we did receive those requests. We then had all the vice presidents meet with their units to review the request, and the result of those meetings was a decrease of $4.2 million. So they went down the list and identified critical items that were needed for 2027 and items that could wait for 2028 were deferred. And so out of those meetings, we were able to cut down from the 99 million down to 94.7 million. So that was a decrease of 4.2 million. Again, the majority of that came in from the equipment line item. 3.6 million from equipment was cut. And again, this is through the effort of all the units going down their request and identifying which were the critical items and which were the items that could be deferred for 2028. When we look at expenses, budget allocation, as you can see, 50% of our budget is salaries. 12.7 are made up of the benefits. The next largest item is our contracted services. 14% of our budget is in contracted services, and these are all the agreements that we have for facility maintenance, IT operations, and mostly support, and also some of our software contracts. So again, 14% of our budget is allocated to contracted services. Equipment makes 9.3% of our budget. Supplies makes up 7.3%. Student expenses 4.4%. So the additional considerations as we continue working to make sure that we present a balanced budget for approval. So as I mentioned, the projected revenue was for next year is 91,845,000. That is the amount of funding that we have available to operate for next fiscal year. Right now, the revised requests stand at 94.7 million, so we're still off 2.9 million. So some of the recommendations that we have is to reduce the equipment request an additional 1.9 million. And the way to do that is to look at financing the equipment. That way we reduce the total amount of from 1.9 million to about 432,000. That would be the annual cost of financing the equipment. So we would go from 2.9 down another 1.5 million. And then one of the other items that we identified is we're currently working on the door access control system for the Fort McIntosh campus. This is a safety component. We are going to propose to use deferred maintenance funding to do to address that project, and the total cost of that would be 698,000. So again, with just those two adjustments, the 2.9 million would drop down to about 800,000. And we still have some work to do on some other line items, but we feel very confident that with some adjustments, we will be at a balanced budget of 91.8 million without having to increase taxes, without having to increase tuition and fees, while maintaining the critical components that are needed for next year's operations. And one of the other items that we're also considering is, again, asking the board to, again, allow us to utilize 2026 savings to address deferred maintenance projects. We do have a list that we have already identified, and again, we want to continue finalizing the roof repairs. We have about 2 buildings left. We do have 2 more chillers to be replaced and another 2 water towers. We do have a couple of air handlers that need to be replaced, as well as the HVAC control upgrades. So again, there's a list of projects that have been identified by the facilities master plan And so one of the strategies is to again come back to the board to ask for approval to use the savings for that. And then the last item that right now is not included in the budget, so it is not part of those $94.7 million, is additional positions. So the strategy to do that is we're going to be reviewing vacancies and reshuffling positions to address the additional staff that is needed in other areas. So again, not to impact the budget, we're proposing to redistribute vacancies to address personnel needs in other areas. So again, be able to maintain the budget at 91.8 million. Tax rate and valuation information. And this is preliminary information from the Webb County Appraisal District. So the taxable value for this year stands at 26.5 billion. The initial numbers came in at 31.7 billion for this coming year. So that's an increase of 5.1 billion in taxable value, 19% increase for this coming year. When we look at the maintenance and operation rate using the taxable value figures, the current M&O rate stands at 19.4 cents. Using the current preliminary valuation, we would be at 16.8 cents. That's a drop of 2.6 cents for the M&O rate. For the debt rate, the rate is currently at 0.03. We would maintain it at 0.03, a slight increase of 1%. Overall, we would see a 2.5 cent decrease to the total tax rate, or a decrease of 11%. When we compare that and use the average homestead taxable value for 2026, that value stood at 222,500. That meant that total tax for Laredo College was $510. For next year, the projected taxable value is 235,293. That means that if we apply the proposed tax rate of 20 cents, it would be the tax would be at $479 for an average homestead taxable value of 235,000. When we look at the tax rate history for the last six fiscal years, we have reduced the tax rate by 11 cents. We went from almost 32 cents in 2022 to the proposed tax rate of 20 cents in 2027. The reason that we have the last 3 years circled is because in the last 3 years we have proposed and passed the no new revenue rate. Again, that's not common to see that. So for the last 3 fiscal years, we have proposed and passed the non-new revenue rate. And again, for 2027, we're proposing to maintain the tax rate at the non-new revenue rate. So again, that is important to note, because I believe we're one of the few entities here locally that has done that. The next steps or timeline, again, we will finalize the review by July 31st. The certification of the tax rolls, and also to be completed July 31st. We do have right now tentatively scheduled a meeting for August the 4th, and this is to certify the tax rolls and also the anticipated collection rate, as well as the calculation of the new revenue rate and the board of approval tax rate. On that same meeting, we're going to ask the board to vote on the proposed 2027 tax rate. And again, that is a vote on the proposed tax rate, not necessarily to approve the tax rate. That will happen at the August 20th meeting. So on the August 20th meeting, we will have a public hearing on the proposed budget, and then right after, a meeting to adopt the 2026 tax rate and the 2027 budget. And that concludes the update. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Vela. Is there any questions? Chair recognizes Mr. Elizondo.
Thank you, Mr. Vela. Actually, my question is for Dr. David Arrazola, and I wanted to ask why are we one of the few colleges getting state funding?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Why are we one of the few colleges that are receiving state funding?
David Azola, Vice President of Student Success and Compliance for the record. So we are not. Every college is getting state funding. Now, we are one of the few colleges, let me put it this way. We are one of the colleges that is benefiting the most from the new state funding formula. And you can attribute that to a lot of things, right? So to our recruiting, to our increase in the number of programs and the different programs we have. So we're increasing enrollment. We're doing a lot of student success initiatives. Every time, for example, a dual student completes 15 semester credit hours, we get extra funding. Every time a student completes their graduation, and if they're economically disadvantaged or academically disadvantaged and they graduate, we get extra funding. So we have taken advantage, because of our student population and because of a lot of the initiatives that we have undertaken. We are benefiting very well from the new state formula funding.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any board members? No. Chair recognizes Ms. Ramos.
Me.
Ms. Ramos, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So I just want to thank Mr. Vela and his team because they did a wonderful job in preparing all of this information. I also want to say that the Palomino Pledge has been very successful. We are on the right track, and also for the student meal plans. I would like to suggest that maybe we look into why we don't have 25% of those kids using the meal plan. If they don't need it, there could be others that might need it, and maybe we're not addressing those. But I think for the most part, I like the numbers. I like that we are helping 303 students at a total of 488,599, and that we're also 75% of our kids are taking advantage of the student meal plan. For the food insecurity that is taking place right now, I think that's really important because those $200 are like, they're like gold. But $200 are for the semester, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so $200 for the semester. Future, maybe consideration to seeing how we use it and how it's being utilized, maybe an increase later on. Maybe we can think about that in the coming years. As far as the different funding sources and everything else that's happening, I see that we are on the track. I know that you talked about raising the no new taxes. We haven't done the tuition and fees since 2014. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our board and not having to raise tuition and fees, but also the governor has stated that we cannot raise tuition and fees at the moment. So he's asking us, all colleges, not to do that. So I'm glad that we're part of that group that hasn't done it in the past 12 years, right? And then the last thing is also to reflect on the monies that are coming in and the decrease, the 11 cents in the last couple of years. That is something that we should express more to our community, to share with them how we've managed the monies. We've increased the budget. To me, I think it's been increased exponentially, but it's for a good cause. We have provided degrees. We have provided bachelor's degrees. We have increased the number of certificates that we have available. So I see that all as positive, and it transcends to how far are we digging into the pockets of the taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer. We all are taxpayers, right? And so we see that, and that 11 cents that has decreased throughout the time, even though it's 2 cents here, 2 cents there, 2 cents there, it adds up. But I'm very proud of our board, and I'm very proud of the administration for providing this information, but not only that, for making it seamless, but also allowing us to ask the questions and and to make sure that we are on the right track. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate that from the rest of the colleagues that we have. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions or Chair recognizes Atiendo?
Thank you. Mr. Vela, thank you for this presentation. I am so proud to be sitting on this board for another year and able to say that there is no new revenue tax rate. Very few boards can say that. And it is something that I think sometimes our taxpayers don't really understand or appreciate. They don't realize how difficult it is to be able to do that. And especially like what Ms. Ramos said, we're not increasing tuition and fees because we can't, but we're able to sustain that because of our departments, our faculty and staff administration being so fiscally responsible throughout the year and making sure that they stay within their budgets and they're not spending where they're not supposed to. And so I just think sometimes we forget to really appreciate and acknowledge all of the sacrifices that every member of our team takes every day. And I want everybody just to know that we do see that, and the taxpayers are feeling it because they're not getting an increase. But I think we need to highlight that a little bit more because it's not easy to stay within budget. It's not easy to keep maintaining the level of service that we're giving without having to increase the costs to our taxpayers. So I just want to congratulate everybody for doing their part, and I hope that we can highlight that more in our marketing, making sure that we let the community know what the board and what our faculty and staff are doing to be able to keep reducing the tax rate. So congratulations once again, and thank you all for everything that you do.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. Any other questions, Chair recognizes Ms. Newsom?
Yes, thank you. So same, right? I had written on this page, kudos to you and your department and really the entire college. And I will be making sure that people know. I'll make sure people know this. You can pay for advertisement if you want, but I'm definitely going to use this as a, I mean, this is great to know. I haven't been here for 12 years, but to know that in 12 years, there hasn't been a raise given right now. We can't, right? But prior to that, and that there is no increase on the new revenue tax rate. So to me, this is definitely, I was going to say, this is definitely something that I'm going to be promoting. So thank you for that to your department and to the entire college and staff, and of course the board members that have been here prior to me. I'm fairly new, that have maintained this. Thank you all. Also, on the next slide where it said projected revenue, there where it says property taxes, and I just want to understand, I heard something close to 2 million in tax change based on increase of the property taxes. That's something that I was trying to write what you were saying, since I wanted to just, if you can clarify that for me.
Yes, so the reason that, the reason that we see an increase in tax revenue is because we got almost 1.2 billion in new properties. Those new properties were not on the tax rolls this year. They have now been added to the tax rolls for this coming fiscal year. That gives us that additional almost $2 million
Gotcha.
of revenue. And again, that is using the proposed tax rate. Again, that revenue wasn't there last year because the property wasn't on the tax rolls.
Got it.
So, yeah, but
Thank
it looks kind of, looks kind of misleading when you say, well, we're proposing a tax rate that's not gonna give us more revenue, but then you look at the numbers and say, well, we're getting $2.2 million more, but it's because of the new property.
And I have a question. I don't sit on the budget committee or anything like that, but has there ever been a breakdown of where the property tax portion, right? Like this is a beautiful slide, right? Where right here. So like the most or the biggest part of the funding comes from property taxes. And I'm just wondering if there is a study, a breakdown of okay, the property taxes, this is kind of where they go? I'm just asking. Don't want it right now, but
It's a
I
good
would-
question. Actually, we do get that data from the Webb County Appraisal District. They do provide a similar chart like that that will tell us whether it's commercial, residential, and they break it down by commercial, residential, new property, of what makes up the total valuation for the district.
No, I think, well, that's good to know too, right? But no, what I was saying is, do we here locally, the college, do we have a breakdown of where the property tax money goes to?
Oh, you mean like the
Yeah.
allocation of the?
Yes, yes. I mean, if it's a no, it's a no. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
no,
want that
so-
answer right now, even
Yeah,
if you did have
so-
it, but.
General
Yeah,
fund,
so
no?
because the different programs, there's three sources of funding, right? We don't necessarily identify it by program, the revenue. Again, you could do that with tuition and fees, but you'll find out that, well, that's not gonna cover the whole operation. So it just goes to the general operating fund, and from
Gotcha.
there, it's distributed where it's needed, but it's not necessarily easily identified. We could do it based on contact hour generation, semester credit hour.
No,
we
you,
could do
you
an
answered the
allocation.
question, so it goes
Yeah.
into just the general operating fund,
Yes.
and then, yeah, okay. Let me see what else I have here. I had a question on the professional development, so that's the next slide after the really beautiful
Yes.
pie graph. So professional development, is this professional development, are these costs, only for the faculty and staff, or does this also, include the costs for the professional development and training for the board? Just a question.
So this is, the board is included. It's a good question, but I believe when we say professional development right now, it's all included in this one item. When we do complete the budget, then it'll go to the president's office, the institutional account. But right now, what you're seeing here, the 1.6 million, there's an allocation that is set aside for the board, for professional development of the board. Yes. So
Okay,
yes, it's all inclusive here. So
Okay.
you got faculty, staff, and
if
board
someone can just send me that, no rush, no
Mhm.
hurry. Is that okay that I ask for that? And somebody can send it to me?
Yeah, just
please?
where the money's gonna go to, right? That's what you wanna know?
I'm sorry?
You wanna know where the money's gonna go to, correct? Like what,
Well, I was
line
asking
item?
him if in this amount that is projected for
that's what I
professional
said, but you wanna
development,
know the one point
training,
six.
right?
The
like-
1.6, you wanna know where the money's gonna go, what line items they're gonna go
Right,
to.
like that would be something that I would be interested in
So
looking at.
we have.
Or if you, what you want to do, Mr. Vela, we're gonna continue doing the budget throughout. Maybe if you could explain it in your next
Well,
presentation.
Well, you'll see it at the August
Okay, yeah.
presentation,
August.
Okay.
because that's when we present the budget by unit.
Line it, okay.
Yes, so you'll see it.
Can you just highlight it whenever
Yeah,
you're
we'll
gonna
highlight
present that so she could get her answer?
Yeah, we'll highlight it at that point.
Okay.
So
I'm in no rush. These are just questions that I have. And this was the same right here on this one. It was kind of the same question, but worded differently on my notes. And then this slide right here, where it says additional considerations,
Yes,
the very last bullet at the bottom, where it says to use vacancies to fund new position and reclassification requests. Can you just maybe give me a little bit of clarification on that?
yes, so part of the budget process includes some departments coming in, requesting additional positions or personnel. Being that we're keeping the budget at 91.8 million, so what the recommendation is, we do have some vacancies in other areas. We need to reevaluate those positions to see if they're still needed in those areas, or we can transfer them over to the departments that are actually requesting and needing additional personnel. So that process will happen from now to the end of July. When we come back to the board with the presentation, we'll identify those positions and include them in the budget. The other item, the reclassification request, is basically uh, directors, department supervisors making a request for us to review certain positions that they feel may not be adequately placed on the pay scale. But what that process entails is they'll submit a request as part of the budget process. It is reviewed internally, then submitted to TASB for review. TASB will then review those requests and let us know if, yes, there's an additional adjustment that needs to be made to this particular position.
Good.
That review hasn't happened. And again, the reason, because we're right now, we're still
Right, in
working
the
on the
process,
budget,
correct.
making sure that we have funding for those type of requests.
Mr. Reyes, so I just have a question. So this is just a scenario. Let's just say there isn't enough vacancies that maybe are underutilized or not needed that we can, I say we, but that you all can dissolve per se, and then use those monies to, let's say, hire some more dual enrollment teachers. That's just what's going to happen in that case if there isn't enough vacancies that we can dissolve. I just, I mean,
That's a good question.
like, can we dig into
Yeah.
some of the other, because it looks like everything looks great. It looks like there's going to be more funding this year, and I want to support. I want to support everybody, right? I love everyone, but student services, student success. Yeah, there's been that request made that we do need some additional instructors and certain things, items for certain departments. And so I would like to see near August, right, if we are maybe giving some of this extra money that I see on all of these sheets to student success.
So when we go down the process of reviewing the requests, again, critical areas are identified and they're given priority. If we don't have vacancies that can be used to fill those requests, another way to handle that is to look at the other line items and identify if we can transfer some of those funds over to the salary line items.
Got it.
Again, when we talk about salaries, the only thing that we have to keep in mind is that those are recurring expenses. So we're gonna see those next year, and if we add 3-4%, it's gonna continue to go up. So again, priority, or the first thing to look is, okay, we have the number of vacancies, and we identify some of those that can be
Dissolved, yeah.
reassigned to
Yeah.
another area so that we can fill those requests. If we find out that we don't have enough vacancies, then the next step would be to look at additional funds from other line items.
On that note, I'll just make a quick comment. I know that I talked to Dr. Ramirez often about, open FTE positions, and Mr. Vela is pretty much saying it exactly. They're evaluating positions that have not been filled in 6 months, in a year. So then pretty much what she tells me is, so the department is functioning very well without that position. So then the positions that are being requested from other departments, as I need help in, I don't know, X department because we're getting extra grant money or this and that. So then that she pretty much, they evaluate them and then they move the position over. So I know that that's being done. So that's a really good thing. Mr. Vela, can you go to the budget highlights? Yeah, that one. So, pretty much, going to what Ms. Newsom, Ms. Liendo, and Ms. Ramos are saying, this is that's the main, beef of the budget right now. If you actually look at it, at all the positive things that we're being able to do as an institution. The non-new revenue rate, the Palomino pledge, the meal plan, all of that. I mean, it's just great, and I think they said it best. It's great to be on this board, to being able to be approving this, and I hope this board approves the budget, because me and Ms. Newsom work for the school district, and Ms. Ramos used to work for United. They are struggling that you have no idea. They are squeezing positions, they're moving people around because they don't know what to do with just the downfall of how we're struggling in budget. And I mean, me personally, I know Ms. Newsom probably feels it as well. I mean, a position leaves, let it be a clerk, let it be an administrator, good. If they let you hire him, que bueno. If not, you're done, and you're gonna have to absorb those duties, especially as administrators that we are. And I just want to make sure that you know that's being said, because there's so many institutions that are struggling so much, and we are so healthy, and I'm very proud of this board and especially of the staff being able to be the gate holders of making sure that everything is done right. So I just want to kudos to you as well, to Mr. Vela and your team and everybody else, because I think this is a team collaborated effort. So congratulations, Mr. Vela. Is there any other comments?
Yes, I wasn't done, but
Oh, sorry.
don't worry,
Go ahead.
Don't worry, Mr. Rangel. So this is another question. I know when they were, Tasby was presenting right now, the part-time adjuncts all had 850, down. And then I believe I heard you say that we're proposing, right, to go to 1,000, right? Okay. So is this regardless of degrees or certifications, or is there going to be a scale? Because when TASB was presenting, they kind of had a scale. I even had a question like, and it's not, I hope it's not offensive to anyone, but the very first one was certifications and associates. And the middle column, what they were proposing was a little bit higher. I think it was 1,031 if my brain serves me well. And then it went to bachelor's and master's, and they were getting this. And I was like, okay, I thought, you went and studied more, you should get a little bit more, right? Maybe I'm wrong. But in this case, moving forward, for the proposals that you all are making for this year's budget, is it going to be 1,000 across, or are we going to consider the levels of degrees, certifications, etc.?
For adjunct pay, we only have that, but I believe it's only that one rate for the adjunct pay. The only difference is for the adjuncts that teach our bachelor programs, those are at a different rate. So, and we're also proposing to increase that rate to 1,100. They're currently making the rate for the bachelor's program is $1,000. So again, but I'll let Ms. Cardenas. I don't know if she has.
Thank you, Mr. Vela. Ms. Cardenas, I was looking at this one where it says part-time faculty market comparison. And again, right, the very first one says a certificate slash associates. What we're giving is 850, right? We see 850 across all the way down. And then it says the market median is 1031, right? And so we're proposing 1,000, right, for everyone. But there's a scale here. And I'm wondering, as a board, is this something that we can discuss? I think that would also entice, if we are trying to promote our college and bring in, we've got great professors, but if we're looking at hiring more, I think this would be something that could be considered, because it's not really super significant, but it is something like, okay, so if you have your certification and you have your associates and you're an adjunct, this is going to be your pay. If you have a bachelor's or a master's and you're an adjunct, this is going to be your pay. Because typically in educational jobs, especially like teachers, just as public school teachers, it matters. If you have certifications, you get a little bit more. It matters if you have, a bachelor's versus a master's, you get a little bit more. So I would like for the board to maybe consider that in finalizing the budget. And I know that Erica was also an educator, and you can attest to that some teachers would get paid a little bit more because they would get an additional stipend for having XYZ certificate, or if they had a master's, they would receive an additional. So it's just something to look at, and I would think that that would entice high quality people that we'd love to hire.
Ms. Cardenas?
Yes, thank you. So we do have a flat fee, right? The 850 that you saw there currently. And when you look at the market comparison, you are correct. The amount is not that difference between a certificate and associates. It was maybe like a $30 difference. And so to the doctorate might be maybe $50 difference. So that is something that we would have to compare and make sure that we don't overpay as well. And make sure that we maintain within the industry as well. But again, what TASB was proposing is to bring it as close as possible. So that would be a difference of, what was it, 150 or so, that we would bring it to the 1,000. And those that, yeah, it is across for the certifications and the associate's degree. For the bachelor's degree, they proposed like $100 extra, so $1,100. So again, in order for us to be able to do a comparison to the market, we would have to do a study on that. So that would be something we would propose with TASB.
I believe,
So-
if I may, I'm following Ms. Newsom, but I believe we're paying 850 and 850 for, yeah, for both. So we'll be, the market value is 1,031, and we're trying to get as close as possible for a certificate and associates, which is 1,000. So we're $31 off if you really calculate it. And for bachelors, we're paying 850. We're paying 1,100. That's the proposed, and the market value is 1,010. So we're paying $90 over. Like Ms. Cardenas says, we have to be careful because then we might overpay. So I understand Ms. Newsom, but I think we're a little bit over on the bachelor's, but we're almost there in the certificate and associates. Correct? That's what TASB is actually telling us, right?
That's correct.
Also, I just wanted to make clarification on that. So a lot of the individuals, like where it says adjunct and overload pay, those individuals that work for us already, like they're either full-time FTEs, they're full-time employees, and they're getting another class. So it's $850 right now times 3 for the 3-hour course that they're teaching. So they're getting more or less close to the $2,700, more or less. And then when you increase to the 150, you're already getting paid for your master's or your bachelor's based on the pay scale that you came in at the very beginning. So on the schedule. So once you're here, then many of our teachers, many of our faculty take on different other schedules, other classes, in other words, and they become adjunct faculty for that particular item, right? So they're still teaching their class. They're still teaching all their classes, but they're getting others, and this is the rate that they're getting paid at.
So in some cases, we do have our full-time faculty teaching additional courses. And when I say additional courses, like for example, when they're off contract in the summer, they would come back as adjunct faculty. And so, and for while they're on contract, we do have course overloads, right? So if they teach more, then they will go into that. But yes, they are getting their base pay. But this is more targeting those that are not full-time as well. So they do have other full-time jobs. And they do, but we do want to entice them and have them come in because it'll be $1,000 per hour per sheet, semester hour equivalent. So it'll be from 2550, it'll be now 3,000.
So, okay.
And I just want to say also, we also take into consideration that every teacher, if they have more than a number of students in their class, they also get paid for that student. That's not in here. That $35, I believe, for the extra students. So if your average teacher does not get that because we can be capped at 28, sometimes even 30 in a classroom, but here you're capped at a certain number, and whatever's afterwards, it gets paid. So those are the extra stipends. So your base salary is one thing, and then added to everything else that you're doing. So it's just a way of looking at it and making sure that everybody gets an equal pay. But if we're doing an extra, like monitoring them in different levels, we're gonna add more to the budget.
So I guess to answer a little bit, I mean, what Ms. Newsom said, I get where she's saying we want to pay. If you have an associate, you have a
Correct.
bachelor's, a master's, we're paying them already in their salary. This is just extra. These are the extra perks. You get me? Like we're raising, the perks are being raised, but
Okay.
but their base salary, they are like, I'm not gonna be making. Let's say you have a doctor's degree. I'm not gonna be making, and I have a bachelor's. You're gonna be making more money than I am. You get me? When you come in. So what they're telling us here, from the 850 to the 1,000, or the 850 to 1,100, that is extra. You still make more money than I do. But when it comes down to getting that extra, the extra stipend that you and I can both get, because we're doing the same work over there, we're gonna get paid the same. But still, you're making more money than I do because you have a doctor's and I have a bachelor's.
Yeah,
You get me?
that I totally get, because that's again the norm in
Yeah.
any educational system. My understanding of this slide though, right here, is targeted for part-time instructors, okay? So I think maybe I didn't explain myself correctly, but I'm talking about, the person that wants to teach 2 or 3 classes. They're teachers maybe at a high school, and they want to teach 2 or 3 courses, let's say, right? Part-time, that would be part-time employment here. My suggestion to the board and to you, because I know you're working very hard every day, right, on this balancing the budget, is to, even if you are the part-time employee who's going to take on the role of 1 class, 2 classes, 3 classes, it makes you a part-time employee, to consider if that base pay, everybody 1,000, you start there. But if you have a bachelor's this, if you have a master's this, if you have a doctorate this, that is something that I think is completely fair, and I would love to be able to provide that. And if we have a healthy enough budget, I think that we probably could.
The only
find a
the only
way.
concern that I have, Ms. Newsom, is that I think that we need to be careful in the sense of like, how are we going to be paying more for people that are not full-time compared to our full-time staff? That's the only concern that I have, and that's me personally. That's how I feel, that I think it's a little bit concerning that somebody part-time would be making more than a full-time employee. But yeah, because if a part-time employee comes in with a doctor's degree and I only have an associate's, that person is going to make more money than I am for taking on this duty. You get me? Chair recognizes Ms. Elizondo.
Since we're not gonna be taking any action
No.
today pertaining this matter, and Dr. Minita Ramirez is not currently here, is there any way that we can postpone this discussion, consult it with Dr. Ramirez to see if there's any possibility of what to implement what Ms. Newsom is proposing, so we can, because we're gonna be going back and forth and we're not gonna take any action, nor we have that information available at this time.
Okay. Is that okay that we get more information, Ms. Newsom?
Yes, again, these are things that, because these 2 very hardworking individuals and their staff, this is an ongoing thing. And so sometimes, guys, waiting until we meet again, and it just, I've learned, right? And these are just ideas that I'm coming up with, because it's the same at a public school, right? ISD, any ISD. And to clarify to Mr. Rangel, of course, anybody that's coming in, whether they're part-time, I guess I'll make my own little table. Whether you're full-time or part-time, you're depending on your certifications and degrees and levels of degree, your base pay should be the same, whether you're part-time or full-time. And I hope that clarified for you. So no,
But
a part-time employee is not going to make more. I'm just talking in this case about the part-time employee. And actually, guys, all of our employees, the base pay should reflect what their degrees and education levels are. I mean, that's it.
Miss
That's
Newsom-
all I have to
Ms.
say,
Newsom,
guys. That's it.
if there's
I'm
somebody
done.
else that wants to get the floor, she's been waving at me. Chair recognizes Ms. Leondo.
Thank you. And I think that's something that if you'd like, you can make a motion when we're approving the budget to make those adjustments, and then it would be up to the entire board to either move forward with it or not.
Chair recognizes Ms. Elizondo.
And also, just as a friendly reminder, we do not have to wait for the meeting to have these discussions. You can contact the president at any time. She's always been able to answer any of my questions.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move on. We'll go ahead and note everything that Ms. Newsom said. We'll talk to Ms. Dr. Ramirez on this. So we're gonna go ahead and move to the next item. Discussion and possible actions. Item 5A, approval of bank depository services and authorization for the president or designee to negotiate and execute all necessary agreements and related documents on behalf of Laredo College. Mr. Vela and Mr. Pinan from Valley View. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, board members, this next item is going to be to request the approval of bank depository services and authorizing the president and designee to negotiate and execute all necessary agreements and related documents on behalf of Laredo College. The college issued a request for proposals for bank depository services, again, to secure banking, treasury management, and depository services for Laredo College. We engaged Valley View Consulting to assist us with the evaluation and analysis of the proposals received. They have conducted a detailed review of the proposals. Proposals were submitted by Falcon International Bank, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, PNC Bank, and Vantage Bank. The evaluation included analysis of banking services, treasury management capabilities, fraud protection services, collateralization requirements, earnings grading rates, interest-bearing account options, fee structures, operational efficiencies, and the contractual terms, and again, the overall financial benefit to the college. So here tonight we have Mr. Tim Pinon from Valley View, and he'll go over the process and also their review of the proposals. And then after that, we'll make a recommendation for the board to consider tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Pinan. Board members, again, please, if he could do his presentation and hold our questions towards the end, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vela. Good evening, members of the board. Good to see you. So yes, I'm Tim Pinon with Valley View Consulting, and we did work with the college to conduct the banking depository project. So if you haven't been on the board for the last 8 years, you weren't here the last time the college did this. This normally happens once every 8 years, so it's not a frequent thing. And so this new contract, the current 8-year agreement is ending August 31st of this year. This new contract will start on September 1st of this year. And it's structured so that it goes into two-year contracts with 3 2-year renewals. Next time we do this again will likely be 8 years from now. So covers that last point there. So there are a number of codes that govern how the project is conducted. And so these are those chapters from the statutes. So a lot of those are, the Texas Education Code is a big part of that. Public Fund Investment Act and the Public Funds Collateral Act, all of the college's deposits with the bank are collateralized. So you've got your FDIC coverage, but anything above that, in the event of a bank failure, is covered by pledged collateral to cover and protect the college's funds. So the steps of the project was we look at the college's historical bank service usage, and we look at their balances. And this is kind of a financial checkup that it's a good process to go through, just to look at the bank services that are being used, because banks do add new services over time. It's good to make sure the college is using the latest and greatest in those. And so we put together a list of the required banking services, potential additional services, And then we developed a list of eligible banks within the college's boundaries, and that came out to be 9 institutions. So the next step is just to make the contact. So we've got the 9 banks, and it's one thing to send the RFP to a bank, but you want to make sure you get it in the right hands. So we established contacts, make sure we had the right banker at each institution, so that when the RFP went out, it got to the right hands. And then we drafted the RFP for the college, and it was distributed through the college's purchasing website. So the next thing we do is we'll host a Zoom call where we send an invitation to all of the banks to come and go over the RFP with us, kind of talk through the steps, highlight some of the things that we're looking for, how kind of responses we're looking for. And so 6 of the 9 banks attended that Zoom call. So that was really encouraging, a really good turnout. 67% of the banks came out. So that good turnout there. And at the end of the day, when the deadline came, we received so 5 of those 6 banks ended up submitting a response. So again, more than half of the banks that were eligible did submit a proposal. So we're really, again, very good turnout, good response rate. So this slide just lists the evaluation criteria. The main thing here is just, I think it shows the complexity of the banking relationship. So a lot of times we might think of banking from our personal standpoint. Our personal checking account is a fairly simple thing, but the college, as you saw just from the budget, there's a lot of money coming in, flowing out. So you need a lot of capabilities. So we're looking at the abilities of the bank, cost of the services, the references, the interest rates. The college maintains significant balances at the depository, so interest rates are very important. Convenience of location. So there's a wide range of aspects that we're looking at, so we factor those into the consideration as well. So this is the financial analysis that we put together. So what we do is we take the college's balances, what they are anticipating maintaining at the bank, which is about 30 million is what the anticipated level to keep. And then we give the banks a fee schedule. Like these are all of the services the bank or the college uses with their bank, the volumes. And then we have them tell us, okay, what would you charge for those services? What would that cost be? And so then we kind of come up with a bottom line number, what a monthly and then an annual cost that each bank would charge to provide those services. Some of the banks are at 0 in the first 2 years, like Bank of America, PNC Bank, Bank of America. They are waiving the fees for the first 2 years, but then after that initial 2-year period, then the fees that they propose do come into effect. The investment option, that's what kind of account are the funds going to be in? Most of them are, as you can see, are interest-bearing DDAs. The hybrid DDA that JP Morgan Chase offered, what they do is they use the balances to cover fees first, and then any balances above that the district or the college earns interest on. And the rate basis, that's really a really good and important column there. What that means is how does the bank decide what kind of interest they pay the college? So what we like is an indexed rate. And so as you can see, Bank of America was 90% of the Fed fund rate. Falcon Bank is the Fed fund rate less 60 basis points. PNC offered a market rate, so that means the market decides what the rate is. PNC doesn't decide it. That's what the market says it is. And then JP Morgan, Bank of America, they offered some bank managed rates. And there were some of the banks offered 2 proposals. It's like we could offer you this or this. We analyzed both approaches. But we like the indexed rates because you're on a level playing field. It's not something the bank controls. It's dictated by the market, which is really the best option for the college. And then we looked at the interest rate. So we said, okay, based on the rate or the index you're giving us, what's that current rate? So that was our rate that we took to measure against that 30 million. What does that come down to the bottom line? And so that 2-year net income is when you take the $30 million the college had, the interest rate that the bank offered, the fees they're charging, you net those out. What's that bottom line number? And so as you can see, the good thing is they're all positive. So from those deposits, the college is receiving positive cash flow. And so we looked at a 2-year period and then the 8-year period. The 8 years a little more speculative just because lots of things are going to happen in the next 8 years. But you try to do as much as you can an apples to apples comparison. So we took this analysis, looked at those numbers, compared them to your incumbent bank, which is Falcon. So Bank of America has a higher return over the 2 and 8 year period. PNC Bank is higher over the 2-year period, not so much over the 8-year period. And that is after an adjustment. Initially, PNC and Bank of America both offered higher returns. So because of that, those were banks that merit bringing them in as finalists. Let's talk to them, find out more about what these banks offer. So in that demonstration, it's not just a kind of an introduction, but it's an online platform demonstration. So we had Mr. Vela, Linda, and Mr. Rangel, and they sat in, they met with the bankers and had them kind of go through the process because they want to see the services they're using every day as they interface with the bank, with the platforms. What does that look like? Is it user-friendly? Is it intuitive? And so they want to get a good feel for that. They also talk about potential new services that the college may use. And then if the bank is selected, what would that implementation process look like? So Bank of America had the higher return, but in talking with staff afterwards, there were some concerns that came out of looking at their proposal. So part of Bank of America's proposal was based on the college maintaining $50 million in balances. So it was fairly restrictive to the college. It kind of tied them into keeping that a level of balances they're not planning to keep. And so initially, the college has been keeping that amount, but they are just to make a better return on the funds. They're looking at diversifying where those funds are invested. There are opportunities to gain additional interest income. And so that was problematic just with the Bank of America request. Another concern was just there were only 2 branches for Bank of America in the area. Another issue was there's a check cashing fee. So that would impact students who maybe took a check to the bank to cash it. If they're not a Bank of America client, they would be paying a fee. So that was a concern for the staff. They didn't want that to be imposed on the students. The Bank of America relationship team is in Dallas. The incumbent bank is here locally. So that's kind of a preference there as far as local representation. And again, the fees were waived for the first 2 years, potentially 3. However, that was contingent on maintaining that $50 million in balances. So that was problematic for the Bank of America return. PNC Bank had the higher return for the 2-year term, but they didn't commit to maintaining the proposed prices beyond the 2-year waiver period, which is not uncommon. A lot of times, and 8 years is a very long period. So a lot of times banks will say, we're not going to commit to that. We'll negotiate at each 2-year period. But as a comparison, Falcon did commit to holding the fee waiver, not charging any fees for the full 8-year period. So in comparison, that's an attractive alternative. And then the staff was just concerned, as you're looking at changing of banks, it's like we all have impressions of banks and what their reputation is. And here in Laredo, there were some challenges when BBVA moved over into to PNC. As a lot of times happens with bank transitions, it's not always a smooth ride. And so just within the community, there were concerns, okay, has that been resolved? Has that been smoothed out? And so with Falcon's best and final offer, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but PNC, over the 8-year term, PNC no longer provided the higher overall return. So in that case, Falcon had the best return over the 8-year period when you just kind of take the numbers out to that extent. So we offered a best and final offer to the Falcon because they were close. We liked them, but there was still a bit of a difference. And so what you can do is go to, when you've got a finalist, you can go back and say, can you give us a best and final offer? Can you do any better than this? And so we did that with Falcon. And so Falcon came back and said, yeah, you know what? We can increase the rate that we're paying to the college. And so they increased their interest rate. They were initially the Fed fund rate less 100 basis points. They raised their rate to the Fed funds rate less 60 basis points. So a 40 basis point increase, that's significant money that comes to the bottom line to the college. So really helpful there. And so, the interest rates were a little bit lower, but you also avoid the process of going through a bank change. A lot of times you're looking for, is there a compelling reason to change banks? If you're happy with the incumbent, staff is really happy with Falcon Bank. So based on this, the banking relationship is really essential to the daily operations for the finance team, very integral to everything they do. And Falcon Bank has been a consistent provider. So you're very happy with the bank that you have now. And changing banks it's significant. It's not a small undertaking. It's involved in a lot of areas of the college's operations. And so Falcon gave a really strong long-term value. They supported the 8-year fee waiver commitment that was not matched by the other finalists. And so based on these, the staff is recommending that the board approve the new contract, or award the new contract to the Falcon Bank. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you, Mr. working on. Great presentation, fast, pretty cool. Is there any questions from any board member? Chair recognizes Ms. Elizondo.
Thank you for the presentation. And actually, I would like to make a motion to approve 5A.
There's a motion on the floor to
Second.
approve 5A. There's a second by Ms. Liendo. Is there any other questions
Do
or
we have to
discussion?
clarify? I need to read it real quick. Does it say,
It
it doesn't say the name of the bank, so you want to make a motion to approve?
I would like to make a motion to approve 5A, following the recommendation to approve Falcon Bank.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Yes. Okay, we have all in favor and Ms. Benavides Garcia recused herself. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Liendo.
Okay. 5B, and approval of a 3-year professional service agreement with TNG Consulting for ATIXA and NABITA training, consulting membership and investigation support services. Dr. Arrezola, go ahead, sir.
Hello, David Arzola, Vice President of Student Success and Compliance. We are asking the board to approve a 3-year service agreement with what we call ATIXA and NABITA. So ATIXA stands for the Association of Title IX Administrators. NABITA is the National Association for Behavioral Intervention Threat Assessment. So we are currently members, and we already have service agreements with these two entities. But we have them in different places. Like, for example, the NABITA comes out of my office, where ATIXA comes out of the student discipline office, right? And we're trying to consolidate, make some of these things cleaner, and also enhance our engagement with ATIXA and NABITA. So this is an organization that, when we need additional consulting regarding Title IX cases or behavioral threat assessment, we can rely on and lean on for experts. They are really, I want to say, the only game.
It's an insurance for the college.
And it is an insurance for the college, right? So anytime, it's one of those things we pay for, hoping that we never really have to use it, right? But we do rely on them quite a bit, both on the student side and on the employee side, for consultations, for investigative services. They do help us when we use them for investigation. They do provide an unbiased opinion, which helps our cases.
Thank you, Doctor. So any question? There's a motion. Any question, comment? No? Motion approved, Ms. Liendo, and there's a second by Ms. Elizondo and Ms. Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? No? Motion passes. Thank you. 5C, approval of Laredo College Board of Trustee letter of support of the Laredo College Board member nominee to serve on the Community College Associations of Texas Trustees Board of Directors. I will not be going to this conference. Ms. Garcia will be going, so I would support if we get a motion for Ms. Garcia. There's a motion by Ms. Ramos, a second by Ms. Liendo. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? No? Motion passes.
Clarification.
Yes, go ahead.
So clarification on 5C is we are nominating to serve on the Community College Association of Texas Trustees Board of Directors, Ms. Erica Garcia, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion by Ms. Elizondo. There's a second by Ms. Garcia. All in favor? Anybody against? No? Motion passes. It's 6:55. I'm going to go ahead and give the board a 10-minute, and you guys as well, so we could come back for the board retreat. Yes? Thank you. Board members, 10-minute break. Good afternoon. It is 7:07 p.m. and we are at the board retreat, and it's June 25th, 2026. I will move on with I'll calling roll call do we have public testimony? No. Okay. And
Roll call.
roll call.
Thank you, sir. Esteban Rangel,
Present.
Ernestina Tita Vela, absent. Jackie Levin Ramos, present. Cindy Liendo,
Present.
Erica Benavides Garcia, Mercurio Martinez Jr., absent. Adriana Alexander, Lizzie Newsom, she's present. Okay. Karina Elizondo,
Present.
you have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. I will go ahead and move on without prayer and pledge of allegiance. We did that earlier. Number 4, schedule for the fiscal year 2027 regular monthly board meeting. Ms. Ramos.
Yes, sir. Looking at the item scheduled for fiscal year 2027 regular monthly board meetings, we have an attachment that has been provided to all of our board members. In looking at the items, we just would like to make sure that the dates that have been set aside for the monthly board meetings are already adopted for this particular coming school year. If you take a look at September, the red circle indicates deadline to post the meeting agendas. The gray ones are the committee meeting dates, and the green boxes are the regular monthly board meeting dates. If I could have the board just review it briefly, or if they've already seen it, I would ask for we don't have to approve it today? No. Okay. So just in looking at it to make sure that if there's any changes that need to be made, that we make them, coming up soon. We are looking at October, November. November especially has the committee meeting dates on the 30th, the 1st, and the 2nd of December, and then the board meeting is on the 3rd. Followed by January, we have our board meeting on the 28th. February 2027, we have our board meeting on February the 25th. March is March 25th. April 29th, May 27th, June 24th, July 29th, and then August the 19th. Those are the scheduled dates. And then, of course, you have your other dates that indicate whether they're supposed to submit posting the meeting agendas and also the committee meetings. Any questions or any concerns? We can have dialogue. If not, we can move on to the next item.
No questions? No, nothing? Just for the record, if any of you have any suggestions, you could email Ms. Bocanegra. She'll go ahead and take it in account, and we'll look into it if the board would like to make those recommendations. So just, if you do have, please email Ms. Bocanegra on your request. Thank you. Moving on, item number 5, board member training requirements, cybersecurity, fiscal year 25-26, working on safety and AI. Dr. Ramirez is not present, but we have Ms. Cardenas. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Veronica Cardenas, Executive Director of Human Resources. And if you recall, we had the cybersecurity training that was initiated about 2 or 3 years ago as a requirement by the state. So in compliance, we went ahead and launched that, and you've been able to do that on an annual basis. So we have a new requirement. It's Texas House Bill 3512, which requires every employee to complete annual training on the safe and responsible use of artificial intelligence. So this one is new. This includes protecting the confidential data, preventing misuse of AI tools. Because the board is part of the institution's leadership, you are also required to complete this annual AI training. It just started this year, and so your participation is important, not only for compliance, but because you set the tone for responsible technology use across the college. And so this training takes about 30 minutes, and you were sent an email through the NeoEd Learn system, and it is due June 30th. If you haven't seen it, it is called Working Safely with AI. I know there's some that have already completed, so thank you. And so obviously completing this training ensures that we meet those state requirements and demonstrate our shared commitment to using AI safely and responsibly.
Thank you, Ms. Cardenas. Chair recognizes Ms. Ramos.
So fellow board members, this is like Ms. Cardenas has said, it's already on the email. If you receive email, that does it have to be laredo.edu email, or is it available on, because some of us have other emails that are.
So we sent it through the laredo.edu email.
Okay. Is there anybody on the board that does not get a laredo.edu? Please make sure that you advise Ms. Bocanegra so that the HR can go ahead and in turn submit the information. The training, even though I've already seen those trainings at school and stuff, it was very informative. We provided a lot of information. And there is no certificate. You just finish it off and then it's just completed. I think at the very end, it notifies through the Human Resource Office that we have completed the assignment.
That's correct.
Okay.
But because we do it through the Neo Ed system, we're incorporating the completion and it gets recorded in the system.
Okay.
So you might not get an email with the certificate, but it's already in the system.
It's already there. So make sure that we all comply by June 30th so that we can go ahead and formally complete our training for the AI training. Thank you, Ms. Cardenas.
Thank you.
Just
And-
one more thing, and it's important to complete it by that deadline because we also have to report to the state
Yes,
before August.
thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments from anybody? No? Ms. Bocanegra, can you just, whoever hasn't completed, can you just go ahead and send them an email to remind them? Please, like Ms. Cardenas said, colleagues, I encourage you to finish that by the 30th. Like she said, it's something that is reported to the state, so please just, let's all comply by that. Thank you. Item number 6, review board member requirements training. Ms. Ramos.
Also on this one, the board member fiscal year 2026 required trainings, the THECB training program that was given to us when we first started, and then the Open Meetings Act training, public funds investment training. I'm happy to report that 100% of our board has already completed the public funds investment training. The Public Information Act, we are missing some people on as well as the cybersecurity training, and now we have the AI training as well. The Open Meetings Act, we do have several people that have not completed for this annual 2025-2026. So we ask that you please check your email and make sure that you complete it. I would like to say that we can do a target date of July 31st to be able to complete our required trainings for this fiscal year 2026 and not worry about it for the rest of the year. If you do get an email from Ms. Bocanegra, she is just reminding us and advising us, and then she provides me with a tally sheet and we make sure that if somebody's having some difficulty or something that we can help them with, we'll be providing them also. In addition, on your desk, you also have the performance evaluation, a reminder that it needs to be filled out and it needs to be turned in to Ms. Bocanegra also as well. So please make sure that if we can go ahead and do that as soon as possible. Preferably, let's go ahead and aim for the middle of July. I believe we have a set date, Ms. Bocanegra, for the evaluation. What was it? The 13th. So July 13th for the president's evaluation. If you could please return it and turn it in to Ms. Bocanegra. And then the others by July 31st. And if you have any questions or concerns, please make sure that you ask Ms. Bocanegra or myself, and I'll be able to provide you with any assistance that you may need. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
She sent us all our information for today's meetings, and that checklist is on there. The checklist, like, we don't have to wait for her to send it to us. We already have it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Benavides. Any other questions or comments from anybody? No?
Just a quick question.
Chair
The
recognizes
13th,
Newsom.
right, for the,
I'm sorry? No, go ahead.
the 13th for the evaluation, and I heard the 30th. That was for
The July 30th is for the trainings that like we're
all of them.
all the training. No, the AI one is in June 30th. That one is the one that Ms. Cardenas reports to the state. The July 15th is the one that Ms. Bocanegra has sent. The July the 31st is the deadline to meet all the trainings, the additional ones. The July 13th is for the evaluation for the president, correct?
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And the self-evaluation, correct? Self-evaluation, when is that?
I don't think that, I was like, I don't think that one got up. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we're just gonna go ahead and do the last presentation on irrelevant sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Our attorney, Mr. Muir, go ahead, sir. 2 minutes. I'm joking.
You have 5 minutes. Yes. Good afternoon,
Joking.
board
Go ahead,
members.
Mr. Muir.
Thank you for letting me present this item to you. I have this PowerPoint presentation that can be made available to everybody. If you'd like, I can email it to all board members.
Yes, please
It's
do
about
so.
30 some odd slides, very useful information. I won't go through all those slides today because Mr. Van Hel will get very upset with me if I do. But I'm going to hit the highlights. The Open Meetings Act is tricky. There's a lot of detail to it. There's Texas Attorney General opinions that interpret the law, and then there's cases that decide disputes that arise out of the Open Meetings Act. This presentation is being done for you today because you have a local policy, BBD local, that requires an annual seminar or presentation on the Open Meetings Act. And so this will satisfy that requirement. So I'm going to focus a little bit on some quorum issues. This one slide just addresses what's going to be discussed. General information, quorum, walking quorums, electronic communications, and other open meetings. Very quickly, these 2 or 3 slides, the Open Meetings Act applies when a quorum of the body is present and discusses public business. And that's important because, obviously here, there's a quorum present, you're discussing public business. The act requires you to post the meeting in advance in accordance with its rules. We've done that. But a quorum could end up meeting outside of a scenario like this, and that's when you get in trouble. The purpose of the Open Meetings Act, I always like to talk about this. It's basically to prevent public business from being cut in smoke-filled rooms. So it was the idea back in the early 70s when it was adopted. The public has the right under the act to access the governing bodies of public business. And so here's the general rule of the Open Meetings Act. It's all meetings of a quorum where the board discusses college business must be held in a properly posted public meeting except for expressly authorized closed sessions. We've been through those many times before. Toward the end of the presentation is a list of a couple of those items that you can look at. By the way, there is on access on the internet a publication called Texas Open Meetings Act Handbook. There's a 2026 version. It's put out by the Attorney General. It's excellent. I mean, there's all kinds of information about the act. If you ever would like to access it, I can help. The quorum for the college, it's 5 or more members of the board. That's all this slide is really telling us. You've heard of walking quorums before. That's a term you've heard. I know on this board I've talked about it many times over the years. Some of you have served at other public entities as elected officials, and I'm sure you've heard that concept then. So a few years back, the Open Meetings Act decided to, what lawyers call, codify the walking quorum prohibition. And that just means put it in the statute. The legislature passed a statute, added it to the Open Meetings Act, and said, here's what you got to do, or here's what is a walking quorum would be a violation of the act. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this. There's 5 elements to it. So first is you knowingly engage in at least one communication among a series of communications. 2, the communications occur outside of a meeting that's authorized by the act. 3, they concern an issue within the jurisdiction of the governing body. 4, each communication involves fewer than a quorum, but the series altogether is a quorum. And then this is the key that the Open Meetings Act added is the member, you violate the act if the member knew at the time of the communication that the series would involve a quorum of the board and constitute of deliberation. So you can think of a scenario, right? If two board members are texting each other about an issue that involves public business, and then one of them knew that this was going to result in either that board member or another board member contacting three others, either by phone or by email or by text, to deliberate about public business. That's the key right there, a board member. So a defense, interestingly, is, if you're a board member and you get a text about public business from another board member, and then unbeknownst to you, the other board member starts communicating with others, that's a defense. You would say, hey, I didn't violate this. I didn't participate in the walking quorum because I didn't know that this series of communications took place. Deliberation, this is, I think, a key point. I was discussing it with Mr. Rangel and Mr. Ramos, is that, the deliberation, that's either a verbal or written exchange. So it could be phone calls, it could be email messages, texts, other similar written communications. There was a few years back, I think I've mentioned this to a couple of board members who weren't sitting on the board at the time, but there was a member of the public that asked for copies of a board member's text messages. And in the request, it was a Public Information Act request, put some admonitions in there, like, hey, don't destroy it. If we need to, we can look at your electronic device and so forth. So I met with that board member, and sure enough, we made copies of those text messages, sent them up to the Attorney General to evaluate whether they needed to be released somewhere. It can be a scary situation. This is just something in plain terms what a walking quorum is, when members avoid in communications and single conversation, but it's a series of communications by emails. So you can look at that. This is the issue, I think, that's important for each member here. If you violate that section of the Open Meetings Act, the penalty could be $100 to $500 or jail time, 6 months in jail. And it's a crime. So emails, Attorney General has said that emails do apply to this written communication. Let me see. This is the section of the Open Meetings Act that I think is important here, and I've highlighted, underlined some of the areas. A quorum of a governmental body engages in deliberations either among the members of the quorum or between a quorum and a third party, and may be subject to the act even if it just listens, even if you just listen to that information, you don't say it. So if you have, for example, 3 board members, a 4th board member is relaying information to those 3, none of these say anything, and one peels off and goes to talk to 2 other board members, all of a sudden, everybody's exposed to violating the act. So this source of this, because people have asked me this question, what if I'm just listening? The source of this is the Open Meetings Act handbook from the Attorney General. It's a 2026. This is an Attorney General opinion. I won't spend too much time on it, but it does basically say that emails are subject to the walking quorum prohibition. I mean, if you go back, there's a physical presence not required. The meeting, I highlighted some areas. What is a meeting? And again, series of communications can be a meeting. Important information. If an administrator sends an email to a board member about college business, there's not a violation of the Open Meetings Act. If the board member receives that and emails it to the rest, there's a violation. That's a delivery. Mr. Ramos and I were talking about this earlier. This is an important one. When using emails for board business, be aware of who the recipients are, both in the to line and then the CC and the BCC lines. And avoid sending or forwarding or copying those emails to a quorum or more of the board. So if you receive an email, all board members are present, and you reply, and the subject of the reply is the public business of the body, then that's a deliberation. And we're going to look at something that I think will shed some light on this issue. Here's another slide we can skip. Attorney General just recommends is the most cautious approach. Don't use emails or social media to communicate. Email policy, we basically have this. It's avoid deliberations between a quorum of the members of the board. Don't use reply all button. Don't email more than one member of the government body at a time. Again, that's helpful. So this is I think good practical advice. Is a board member sends a message to the rest of the board and no one replies. Is that a violation of the Open Meetings Act? And the answer is it depends on the content, but it's risky. So, and it's again, we looked earlier, a one-way communication can violate the act. So if the message is purely ministerial, for example, the meeting starts at 6 p.m. today, or here's the publicly posted agenda, that's not a violation. But if the message involves discussing, arguing, advocating, or framing a decision on college business, from one board member to the board, very risky, very likely to violate. Because again, that's not meeting in public with an agenda. That's the whole thing. Is the Open Meetings Act says if you're going to meet in public, and you post an agenda 72 hours ahead of time. Now, what about a one-way communication sent by a third party, like a citizen emails the trustees with a complaint, the college president sends a factual update to the board, council sends a privileged legal communication? Very little risk there if the information is just provided and none of the board members respond, discuss, or poll or coordinate. No board member sends a text to another board member or an email or phone calls about that. Because again, that should be done in a meeting. But here's where it becomes a problem. So that was a third party, right? Like a lawyer or the college president, for example, or someone else. It becomes risky if that third party who's sending the communication is basically a conduit and is meeting with others to try to, for example, let's get a consensus where all the board members are going to be. And I'm a third party. I'm going to try and facilitate that. I meet with one board member and say, for example, I talked to these other two board members, and this is what they told me about this issue that's coming up in a board meeting. That's a big problem. Here's some exceptions. I'm about done. There's some more slides, but here's some exceptions. You can't talk about public business in a convention or social event, but there is an exception to that. If there's no meeting, if formal action is not taken, and any discussion of public business is incidental to the function, that's in the This is just another case. It really talks about what we discussed. And these are the exceptions to meeting in the public with a posted agenda. Is you go and consult with an attorney in executive session, consider personnel matters in executive session. That's really the essence of my comments. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Muir. Is there any questions or comments by any of the trustees? Chair recognizes Ms. Garcia.
Ask you, yes, to send it to us. And that way we have it, documented if we ever need it or whatever.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Ms. Elizondo.
Mr. Muir, I just want to thank you and your entire firm for your continuous diligence.
Thank you.
We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I'm just going to say a
Chair
comment.
recognizes Ms. Newsom.
Thank you, Mr. Muir. You're great. I agree with Erica. Send it to us. And the link to the one that's very lengthy by the,
yes, that's a great idea. I'll send the
the full.
And include the link of the open meetings
Yes,
act.
Thank you for everything, Mr. Miro.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? There's a no question. Is there a motion to adjourn? There's a motion by Ms. Liendo. There's a second by Ms. Ramos and Ms. Garcia. All in favor? Anybody against? No? Motion passes. It is approximately 7:32 p.m. and we are done.
Happy birthday, Cindy.
Happy birthday.